Welcome to Humble Filmmaking, the show that focuses on making films with a tight budget, a small crew, and limited time. My name is Avery Lewis, and today I'm going to be going over why the 85mm lens is by far the best lens you can buy. Oh, and just by the way, that is how far away the camera is from me so that I can shoot on the 85 for this video. So by far, the 85mm is now my most used lens. I used to always have it in my camera bag, but used to not really put it on a lot of the times. I always stuck to my 28-70. Over the past couple of months, I've been experimenting with only using the 85mm, and in fact, I've done multiple weddings and elopements and portrait sessions and music videos, at least mostly, if not only, on the 85mm lens. And if you're wondering, the 85mm I have is the Sony 85mm 1.8, not the G Master, just the regular Sony model. So like I was saying, I use this for most of my shoots anymore, and that is gonna include photo and video. This is by far the best portrait lens I have ever used. Definitely beats the 50, definitely beats a 28-75, definitely beats any kind of wide angle in my opinion. It is an amazing lens for portraits. At f1.8 85mm lens, you're getting an insane amount of bokeh. It's gonna look beautiful for those close-up standard portrait shots. However, if you're going to back it up a little bit and take a wide photo, I think that's where this lens really gets unique and really beautiful. Not only are you still gonna get bokeh on like a full body portrait, you're still gonna get that nice shallow depth of field, but also you're gonna get insane compression as long as you have the room to be able to back up enough to get a wider shot. The wide shots from this lens can look insanely cool. I am an extremely introverted shooter. Just in general, I'm an extremely introverted person, and a lot of times I'm shooting with people that I don't know. So having that little bit of a more distance, even with close-up shots, the 85 is gonna allow you to get a little bit further away from your subject. And it kind of just adds that little bit of gap that makes me feel a lot more comfortable while still being able to get the shots that I really need. All right, so now let's talk about some video stuff. This thing is just cinematic. I mean, the compression mixed with the low aperture, I'm like 12 feet away from the camera right now, and you still see a nice out of focus background. Everything is looking sharp and beautiful. There's not a ton of light in here either. It's mostly like my monitor from my computer lighting me up. And then of course I have this little hair light over here, but like, you don't need much light, which is gonna help you a ton in video and in photo. Having that 1.8 is gonna help you a lot regardless. I just feel like the properties of how an image looks at 85mm just kind of naturally feels more cinematic and more like you're watching a film. I do know that a lot of directors do use 85mm in their films. Definitely not only 85mm, hardly ever, but it is one of the most common focal lengths in film as well. So this is probably gonna be a little bit shocking, but I promise I have proof. This thing does exceptionally well with handheld actually. So I know it's 85mm, which is always gonna be harder for handheld if it's a tighter lens, and there's no built-in IS. So you're solely working off of the IBIS in the camera, if your camera has IBIS, but in my experience, this lens has still brought me insanely good handheld footage. I've shot almost entire music videos on this lens. Like I've said a couple times already in this video, during weddings, I've been only running the 85mm and only running handheld, and it is still just insanely cool, insanely beautiful footage. I think it gives that, like I was saying earlier, it kind of has that cinematic feel already. So I think that helps when you're going to handheld mode, because it kind of naturally gives you that more cinematic feeling handheld instead of the like, this is a really tiny camera on YouTube feel of handheld. And I think there's a difference there, and it definitely helps to have like an actual rig for your camera like I have now. It adds a lot of weight, which helps you use your bigger muscles instead of your smaller muscles. I've gotten insanely good handheld footage out of this lens, even bare bones, just the camera body itself, and I couldn't be happier with this lens overall. Have I mentioned how much I love this lens? And you'd be surprised in how many applications you can really put this lens to the test and really utilize this lens's capabilities. I've used it in documentary interviews as well. I mean, look at how great it looks with a talking head. And in talking about that specifically, but also just kind of everything that we've been talking about, having an 85 millimeter focal length is gonna help you a lot to isolate the subject. So as you see, even in this image here, I'm pretty isolated. There's not a whole lot of distractions happening in the frame. It also has a nice bokeh roll off, which is gonna help with that as well. But it's also gonna help, like, I could have a microphone so close to my face with this setup because it's an 85 millimeter lens. So you're not seeing that much around the frame. And the camera is like 12 feet away from me, so obviously I need some sort of external audio anyway, but it'd be so much easier to set up lights really close to me if I needed to, or audio stuff, or literally anything. It's just so much easier, even if there's stuff like behind that are like really big distractions, telephone poles, light stands, just literally anything. It's so much easier to get rid of that stuff in the frame when you're working at 85 millimeters because there's just naturally going to be a lot less in the frame. So like with anything, there are drawbacks of shooting at 85. There are a lot of situations where 85 is just not the lens to use, but for the most part, I would say it is by far my most used lens, and one that I would recommend every filmmaker and photographer to have in their camera bag, in their fleets. Also, little side fun fact kind of a thing, my 85 millimeter actually does have a chip in the front element, but because you're at 85 millimeters, you're never gonna see that chip. It's never gonna be visible in any of your shots. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Humble Filmmaking. I know this was a little bit of a different one. A lot of my videos in the past have been reviewing products or you know, talking about specific products. This was more talking about just 85 millimeters in general, but I just want to kind of switch it up a little bit, try some new content, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you guys are, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel as well. You go check out my main channel as well. A lot of these videos are the same videos that I post over there, but I post more variety stuff over there. So if you guys are interested in seeing more of what I do, as well as my like finished films and music videos and stuff like that, go check out my main channel. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Until then, as always, I'm your host, Avery Lewis. And did I have a specific outro for Humble Filmmaking? I don't even know. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next episode.